7:30 till 3:30. And that's when I try and get all my items done for that.
Feel like they're working, right?
Yep, feel
It's
like
now
it.
I'm getting up. I got to get my dress shirt on. I'm going to Starbucks to
Yep.
meet up. I've got a business meeting.
I'm
right?
taking notes in
this
my
is me doing business.
field
right?
brand field notes.
And here I am, like I'm out doing business at a coffee shop. And like your point is, then you go home and you didn't actually do further your business. You didn't make any money.
Yeah.
You didn't whatever, and you just wasted probably 2 hours of your day at least.
Right. And I guess I was lucky in that I quit my job when I was still relatively young. So I was 25, right before the recession.
So you barely ever even worked.
Well, I worked.
Had a job.
I worked full time for 3 years, about 50 to 65 hours a week, doing art direction and graphic design.
Okay.
So it was before that I freelanced. So I got out of school a little bit earlier than normal, and then I freelanced for 2 years with a bunch of agencies around town. And then I needed to go full time to really understand, the sacrifice and what it means to show up to the same place every day. So I did that for 3 years straight. When I turned 25, I realized this is not for me. It's nice having a salary. It's nice having a constant paycheck and awesome health benefits, but this is not my path. I just knew it. Then quitting the job and slowly getting introduced into freelance and slowly cultivating personal responsibility and good habits probably took about 6 years. It wasn't an overnight thing. I had the leeway and I had the runway to be in a band and not really worry about money because I had saved all my money working full time. And then I slowly, this wasn't like an overnight thing. It took me a long time to cultivate my ideas of what a good productive day looks like and how to get there quickly. Now, other people I know who have quit their job and try to start working for themselves immediately, they don't have the luxury of time that I had being in my, mid-20s. So there are tips like get out of your pajamas as quickly as possible and put on your work clothes to get into the work mindset. That's an obvious thing. I don't necessarily have to put on a 3-piece suit and, say, it's work time, Kevin. But I probably would have benefited having done that when I was 26 or 27.
Right.
I just didn't have the personal self-responsibility at that point.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're kind of talking about working from home today, but there's different types of people that work from home, right? You're in the entrepreneur category.
Yes.
There's people who are employees that work from home.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's some employees.
Which is a different ballgame.
Totally different ballgame. And then there's employees. I know a guy who works from home and his company tracks him more than I think they would if he worked at the office.
Oh, interesting.
And so he gets a break. He walks around his house with one of those old kitchen timers.
Yeah.
15-minute break. And he's walking around his house doing whatever. I got to get back to the desk.
Screw that. Oh,
so
my God.
how do they track then?
Well,
is it tracking software just by being on the computer and movement of the computer?
I think his
what's he do?
He's taking calls and stuff for insurance related stuff.
So that's pretty easy to track.
Yeah. A lot of other people, I've got another friend who works from home, on Mondays, her company lets her do that.
Yeah.
And it's that's one of those things that's super taken advantage of, where it's as long as my mouse moves every 45 minutes, I think I'm working, but they can't really track what she's doing.
Yeah.
So I guess there's the trackable work from home, there's the non-trackable work from home, and then there's the entrepreneur. There's probably other categories, but
sure.
So one of the questions I was going to ask about is staying motivated, but that probably has nothing for you in your category, entrepreneur. That probably has nothing to do with working from home. It has a lot more to do with just I want to be successful in my business.
Yeah, I mean, what's my go-to line is that you'll never be happy until you work for yourself, but I don't recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
And that is the truth. It's a double-edged sword. Yes,
I like that.
You get your freedom, and yes, you're fully actualized in your professional mind of dictating what it is that you do. But yes, you never stop thinking about business, and you never stop thinking about what you can do. And vacations are the biggest litmus test. When you go on vacation, when you have a full-time job, you're able to disconnect fully because it's all in the office. When you work for yourself, you take that with you. You still have the mental office going
it's like
on.
big picture thinking a lot of times.
Right. And I just went on a vacation 2 weeks ago, and it took me 3 to 4 days to even snap out of the productivity mindset.
Yep. I think it takes me about 3 days. The first 3 days I'm sort of on stress a little bit,
Yeah.
We're going go-karting or whatever, and I'm kind of like, cool, do you mind if I sit out and like check my emails, And then maybe by day 4 I'm like, let's do this.
Or even trying to maximize your vacation. Like we were in Central America. I'm like, okay, I want to check out this volcano. We want to go to this small little town and check out the market. And once we got to the place, and 3 days later of saying, why are we trying to run around? Why are we trying to do all this? Let's just stay here and decompress and turn off. And then I was finally able to get to like beach brain.
Beach brain.
And when you get to that point, then the ideas start to come in passively without you even thinking about it. So you'll just be sitting on the beach, sipping on a Corona, and just an idea will come out of nowhere. And you're like, oh my God, that's great. Let me grab my phone and just write that down. And that's a beautiful place to be too. And then, coming back from the trip, it's hard to snap back into productive mode because you're still stuck in beach brain. And you're wondering, why am I even here? Why don't I live in Central America? You've romanticized the trip already, being back.
It's so easy to come back. To me, it's easy to come back and get back into that rat race or whatever.
It took me 3-4 days.
There's a big stack of mail. It's like, okay, here we go.
Well, it took me a long time. Yeah, I got back last Tuesday, and I was really suffering with the existentialism of being an entrepreneur, and why am I responding to this email? Do I really care? Will I care about this shit in 5 years? Probably not. And then it was, had a fun weekend. And then Monday it was like, okay, I'm ready to do this again.
Ready to get back on the
Ready
nice
to get
little
back
plug
into
for Corona. I think they need it right now, by the way.
For who?
Corona beer.
Oh, yeah.
Their sales have dipped a little bit. So.
Yes.
Well, you've talked a little about kind of how you organize your day. It's which I think we were interested in. I think you talked a little bit about sort of being motivated. One of the things that I've seen in realtors, people have their corporate job.
Yeah.
They decide they want to become a realtor. They quit their corporate job probably way too soon. They become a realtor, and then day 1 they sort of show up.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, how you doing? Here's some things to do. Day 2 they show up an hour later. No one gets mad at them. What's going on? Right? Day 3 they don't show up at all.
Yeah.
Nothing bad happens to them. And then day 4 they're at home watching Oprah and doing their laundry.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm just. And that doesn't work for people. So this whole being motivated, self-starter thing is what.
Yeah, but that's a nuanced conversation. You're talking about a lot of different things. You're talking about people's purpose. You're talking about what they have anticipated being a realtor, what they think it's going to be like, and then they have to embrace the reality of the situation, which it's
that's deep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's
true because people try to simplify it down to yeah, well, I don't have to go in, so I'm just gonna watch Mama's Family reruns all day and just zone out with Oprah. So, are you really doing what you want to do in the first place? Is realty?
If you say I don't have to go in, that means maybe you shouldn't. The word "have to" is kind of insinuating that you don't like doing it. You're saying
exactly. So, I think that's the first roadblock. People are looking for these quick fixes, and they look at realty as saying, "Wow. Look at the money I can make just by showing people homes and, taking, getting a little bit of an education and they don't realize that it's just like any other entrepreneurial effort. You have to be good at marketing. You have to be good at in person to person. You have to be good over the phone. You have to be considerate. All these different skill sets that people just don't even think about when they get into any field. The one field that is fairly entrepreneurial that people do have a motivation in, I would say, is legal. Lawyers are they're all entrepreneurial, and the system of a law firm is set up similar to the system of a realty agency, right? More or less.
I don't think exactly. I mean, sort of. But
in terms of everybody has their own portfolio of work, and if you sell more homes or do more cases, you're going to be making more money.
Probably eventually. And maybe you're right, but my impression was that a lot of new attorneys, they sort of start out as a more salaried person, working for the more entrepreneurial type of attorney.
Would be a partner.
Yeah.
Right.
But eventually, they definitely become the entrepreneurial type.
Yes, exactly. And then, there's no lack of motivation then when it comes to being a partner in a law firm.
Especially once you got that first big check.
But because it's the concept of ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you start off at a real estate agency, you probably don't feel that concept of ownership as quickly as you would hope. Right?
Right.
And again, I don't really know how the real estate market works.
Well, just like everybody else, you probably know a lot of realtors, and you've seen how some of them
some are very successful and some don't. Yeah. What was the initial question?
It was kind of just more about like the staying motivated and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think you have to determine if it's actually what you really want to do in the first place.
And I think that people, I guess, I wanted to ask about dealing with distractions, know, because and a lot of these questions are sort of tied together, like how you organize your house versus your workspace or whatever. But I get the impression a lot of people that work from home, it's like, well, I need to do some emails. I need to do some laundry.
Yeah.
I need to eat lunch. I need to design that new flyer for people or whatever. And it's like, laundry it is.
Yeah, it's easy to get distracted. And I think there's a bunch of tips and hacks and all that kind of crap. I think I'm starting to realize like being productive is a form of meditation, which I don't meditate. But the whole idea of meditation is that anytime a distraction happens, you acknowledge it, and you don't chastise yourself. You just acknowledge that it's a distraction, and then you push it aside and focus back on meditating. I think work is the same way. I think that you can have a streak of I'll have a very productive day typically, followed up by a less productive day. And some of that is kind of this whole reward thing that we have in our mind of like the dopamine rush of checking social media. Like I had a great day yesterday, so I can slack a little starting off today, but then the slack starts to take over until 1 o'clock and you're like, shit, I haven't done anything today. And then you start to feel guilty about it. So then you start to really focus again, but then somebody texts you or, you get hungry and you go make a sandwich and then you're off track again. And I think the key is really acknowledge that you're being distracted, do what you do, and then just try and make a concerted effort to get back to the place where you are being productive.
So do you have your home set up though in a way that allows for productivity? Because you have your personal space, like your workspace and your personal space always just somehow come together.
Yeah, I mean, I have my office room, and I don't ever take my laptop outside of that.
You don't?
No.
So you're not sitting on the couch watching TV in your pajamas like Adam?
No, I don't multitask at all. I think it's a lie. A dirty lie.
Oh,
supposedly it is. I've been to a few speakers about that where they try to get you to multictask, and it's like, see?
Yeah, no, it's a lie.
Right, no, but that is the truth. You
men
can't
and
multitask.
Women. Yeah, nobody can multitask.
Yeah,
you can
only
do
are less productive multitasking versus just focusing on one, even for women who are typically better at
Well, I think that's stigma. I think
our brains are actually wired differently. I have looked.
I'd like to see that source, please.
I will certainly email.
Can you pull up that source? No, I'm just kidding.
Moving on.
I'm kidding. No, but I think what it is that what multitasking or the concept is that you do certain things over and over and over, and it becomes kind of like muscle memory. So yes, I can talk on the phone and fold clothes now. Me personally.
Now, have you been working on that for a while?
No, but I'm saying like I can
well,
maintain
with the topic that he's talking about, I guess.
Yeah, I can I can do physical labor and hold a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. If you introduce more complexity to a certain task, then either the phone call or something else is going to start to suffer.
But and a great example of that is though talking on the phone and driving, right? So the muscle, I can sit there and talk on the phone, and you can fold laundry, you can cook, you can do whatever you want, whatever it is that. But at the same time, it is also proven over and over and over again that you cannot talk on the phone and drive.
Right.
What? I do that every day. That's like when I talk on the phone.
Well, no, you can, but your attention.
Oh, but you can. Sorry.
Is.
But it has been proven over and over. Like if you get in front of a simulator and they start challenging you, almost everyone fails.
Yeah, I guess I should say I talk on the phone mainly. I'm going places where I know where I'm going. Is that?
But
right?
even that, no, because even then it just But it's the science of it is pretty. it's simple but complicated, I guess. But it does speak to the fact that you cannot multitask.
Right. I mean, you can drive. I think what is hindered is your awareness of what's going on.
Which is true. You can talk on the phone. You can drive. They're both like muscle memory actions of sorts.
And you can drive drunk, but your awareness is still going to be heavily hindered.
Let's just go.
We do not condone that.
No.
We don't condone it. No, I'm not. Just saying.
If you were going to, like, because when you bought the property that you live in, which sort of looks like a commercial space and all that stuff, if you now knowing that you're not really going to be hosting meetings there, right?
Sure.
You don't have a company sign out front or whatever. What would you do differently? If someone was listening, would you have bought the same space? Would you have bought more of a traditional place and just had a bedroom be your office?
Yeah, because I also looked at a mixed use or commercial space as also more of an investment than a home. So again, being an entrepreneur, I'm saying, okay, if I'm tired of this space, eventually I could turn it into a coffee shop or turn it into a really crazy Airbnb someday if I need to do that.
So the fact that it's unique, it's not like every other house on the same street.
Exactly. Yeah, it's got some curb appeal. It's interesting. People always ask me what it is. I think I sent some pictures over for you guys to take a look at the facade. So it's got garage doors. People always want to know the history of it. I don't really know the history. I just know kind of anecdotally what I've been told. And I look at that as more of an investment than a house because, people, I don't know if you agree or disagree, but like it's not wise to tell people that a home is an investment anymore. Or I don't know what your stance is on that.
I would still say it is.
It's obviously
a good
an investment, but it's not you shouldn't always expect it to appreciate. Or,
I don't want to ever like guarantee anyone return. Or I don't even really want to say like this is a great deal or this is a great investment. Or I don't want to give any insinuation that I have a crystal ball about what the market's going to do.
Sure.
In theory, it's better than renting, but still, if your property value goes way down, then maybe it was worse than renting.
Right. Exactly. But I looked at it as a funky enough space to where I said, okay, I could turn this into another business down the road if I leave it and move somewhere else.
But it's true because you kind of have this commercial aspect feel to the front of it. And then, the inside could be a multi-use space. And then you could live there, you could work there, you could just...
Yeah, I could rent it out as a commercial space.
Yeah, yours is... It's really unique in that way.
From a working from home perspective, Shannon, I was actually interested in asking you about this because you work a lot from home as a realtor, but one of the things I hear from people is that when they're working from home, their spouse sort of assumes that they don't work. And so you hear about a lot of realtors who are like, yeah, my spouse wants me to pick up their dry cleaning in the middle of the day or pick up the kids from school or take their grandma to the doctor or whatever like that. You're not at work. And do you deal with any of that?
No, because I've worked from home since I was 25 plus.
But you are the one who picks up the kids.
Well, and then initially when I was working from home, I worked for a corporation. And now I traveled all the time. So I would spend a couple days in the office a week, maybe a office being my home office. But then I transitioned into, I built websites for a while after that job, and then I became a realtor. But I think the difference between there is it's not that you working from home, you don't get the credit. I don't get a steady paycheck. I don't have that corporate job to say, and I don't have to clock in, clock out somewhere. So then I think that in general, that people just assume that you have this extreme flexibility.
Either of you guys, including me, but either of you guys deal with people just assuming that you're available because you're not a corporate worker type of person?
Right, because you're not having to clock in, clock out. Yeah, all the time.
I mean, I think early on, and then I just basically just stopped answering the phone or replying to people, and I think that kind of got the point across. I'm not driven by like the notifications of email or phone calls or texts. I just don't look at it.
I really wonder what it would be like if I did that because I'm always replying. I'm always like worried about the relationship and all that stuff.
But you're replying to who? Like the agents
Everybody.
where we have questions about like the contracts or the deals? Or are you talking about
No, if some like random person off the street emails me and asks like to go to coffee, I would go.
Yes, that is your. That's what you tell
I
your
do.
agents.
I go, and it's a lot of the times it's a real waste of time.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, time is the only, it's the most precious currency that people give away so freely.
But like,
that's not me. That's a
can
philosopher.
Think of good things that have come from some of those meetings, and maybe that's like what I'm holding on to. Probably that's a common thing.
Yeah, but if you charted it out and took a look at all those meetings and said what actual good came from these, then it would probably be a pretty low percentage.
What actually moved your business forward?
Yeah, you're making a great point.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm touching my face. Coronavirus.
Well, Shannon was making a joke about how this topic might be more.
Appropriate now.
What's the word you used earlier?
My favorite story was that was perfunctory.
Perfunctory. This is more perfunctory now.
No,
because
this
of
is
the coronavirus.
more prevalent now.
Well, potentially people will be doing more working from home.
They are in California, Washington State.
Well, my favorite story was that
they are now.
This, do you know Zoom, the teleconference or video conferencing software?
Yes.
So Zoom, the stock symbol ZOOM, went surging upwards with the notice of like people having to work from home. But that wasn't even the stock symbol for the video conferencing software. ZM was the actual stock symbol for Zoom, the video conferencing company. Yeah, I do. I hate video conferencing. I hate all sorts of group conferences. I'm in a few from time to time, Microsoft Teams, all that junk. The best one I've found as a one-on-one video conferencing software is called Whereby, WHEREBY.com.
Well, if it's one-on-one, what's the difference between Zoom and Whereby and Facebook chats or whatever?
Well, I think the ease is that people's platforms, depending on if they're PC or if it's an old PC or whatever, this has been the most hassle-free video conferencing software.
Okay.
Not an ad that I've ever used because it just works so instantly, quickly. The bandwidth is great. There's no lag. But like things like Microsoft Teams and one-on-one or Join Me and all that crap, I always found like they're quitting or the audio's cutting out or like, are you here, Bob? Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? And then there's
your
like
picture froze. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
the lawnmower's
Bob's like, yeah, I'm here, but I'm really doing something else, and all these group conference calls.
I've been working with this firm recently just as a kind of a design consultant, and they have like 9-person video conferencing meetings on Mondays, and it's hilarious. I'm just sitting there laughing while I'm getting paid, listening to how much work they're not getting done. And maybe part of that is their system and their model, but the other thing is just this is ridiculous to have 9 people trying to talk to each other on a video chat. Why are you doing that?
Yeah, well, there's probably a lot of that going on in corporations in general.
Tons. Yeah, don't get me started on corporate America and how inept it is.
So for you do work from home, but you have on the anti side, I guess you're saying you kind of have meetings if necessary and try to avoid it, but at their offices with the clients.
Yeah, earlier on, I was trying to like prop up this Wizard of Oz mentality of my agency being a we and us of who knows how many people. I put on LinkedIn like, oh, it's 9 to 15 people, which is not true. And then eventually, once I started making money and having clients, I'm like, that don't matter. Nobody cares. Yeah. So then I started owning it, just being like, yeah, it's just me. This is how I work.
But then with Snakebite, you have kind of other spaces that the business is operating in where
Correct.
They're making the product. And do they ship from there too?
Yeah. So the product is assembled and made, and then it's fulfilled from that location.
But you never felt like you needed an office there or you needed to be there on a daily basis to watch or anything like that?
Correct. Yeah.
Technology's given you the ability to sort of track?
It hasn't, I think you can't expect people to do the same job that you would do. I think, depending on what it is. But like if I was shipping all of my products, then I would have it done 100% or maybe probably 98% correct most of the time into what I want. If you teach someone else, they'll probably start off at like a 85% and eventually start to slip down to like a 75%. Depending on how good of an employee they are, that gets righted away. But if they suck, then they'll just keep slipping down to 60, 50%. And then you start getting emails from your customers saying, hey, I ordered this and that too, and it wasn't in there, or the glasses weren't packaged correctly and they all broke on arrival. But you have to get comfortable that people won't do things the Kevin Kelly 100% method,
right,
or the Adam Cruz 100% method. They're going to do it the 80% method.
Well, that's interesting, because I would have thought as, you have a product, so you can measure, like, I sold one snake bite, they shipped one snake bite, I paid whoever that was for one snake bite.
Yeah.
But there's other issues that come up.
But quality control is constant.
Versus if you tried to
even
grow
with the product.
into agency and you had a salesperson and another graphic designer, then you really, like, what are you doing for the 8 hours a day that I'm paying you? It would be harder for you to track it.
Right. And, it's very hard onboarding people. I think finding good employees is the hardest thing to do. And I had these dreams of growing the agency into a bigger agency. And then I realized, I kind of had that moment where I said, is this really what I want to do? Or is this just the look like what I want to do? Just because I've been involved in marketing and design for 15 years, do I really want to own an agency or a studio? And I realized, no, I don't.
That's where you get into that whole concept of, like, if you would grow your company, now you're no longer doing what you love about it. Now you're managing people.
You're managing people. You're
billing,
you're writing contracts. You're not doing anything creative whatsoever.
That's like the E-Myth thing where, like, you're no longer making pies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And I think I've gotten into sort of a sweet spot to where I have some good client connections to where they don't require a lot of work. And then I have a product to where you can make money passively. Mm-hmm. And so these both allow me to focus on them for a segment of my day or my week, and then also allows me time to focus on new things that I might be interested in, whether it's investments or another creative outlet or another product or whatever it may be. But I don't want to say that I'm lucky, because it's taken me ever since I quit my job 12 years ago to cultivate this into what it is now. And it took a lot of mistakes and laziness and getting over that laziness and reading things and thinking that I'm not the best example of entrepreneur in order to pick up the habits and the methods and the systems. Right? Because, like, I'm not, what I've changed is that I don't really have goals. I don't have these lofty, huge goals, because those can change the older you get, or you just realize you don't want to own a studio or an agency. So I have systems, and they're just small things. I do my systems every day. I'm productive. I keep thinking about what it is that I want to do. And slowly but surely, I find out that opportunities are presented to me that might represent what I would have thought of as a goal. You just kind of keep it flexible. You don't live and die by one thing happening in your life. So,
well, this turned into being a lot more interesting topics than kind of what we had planned on. I hope that the people listening that are either working from home or considering working from home can get some tips from you, and about how to stay motivated, or really about how to organize your day. Feel
free to reach out to me. I won't get coffee with you, but I'll I'll email you.
We know that now.
Tell us how people could get a hold of you or find you if they wanted to.
Cool. Find me online at Kevin Kelly USA. That's on Twitter and Instagram. You can email me through snakebiteco.com. All the emails come to me. And I have a podcast too called Anti. That I've been, I think this is the first time I've been the guest in a while since I've been hosting my own podcast. So check that out on wherever you get podcast, ANTI- with Kevin Kelly.
Nice. What? ANTI
and the hyphen
is the name.
Dash. Yeah. Anti and Kevin Kelly. So if you search Anti Kevin Kelly, you'll find the podcast.
Love it.
Yeah, okay. Man. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me.
Anything else we should ask you about today?
No. I mean, I'm just getting warmed up. Could go for another 2 hours. That's my format.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you for being here. Let's go get some coffee sometime and just talk. We'll just
bro, totally.
Adam learns nothing from the podcasts.
What's that?
Adam learns nothing from the podcast.
Yeah.
That's why we love him.
Yep. I had a long lunch meeting today. That was but it was good. All right. Well, thanks for. I mean, I think we could get into asking you more detailed questions, but I think we got the point across.
Yeah, and for sure, I have, I'm kind of exiting the whole working from home thing after 12 years. And so maybe I come back on and talk about not working from home and getting into, a new business.
Are you productive or not? More productive or not?
That's interesting. Like sometimes I think switching it up and having your office off-site does make you more productive. Honestly, I think it's just switching it up.
Yeah. Well, hold on a second. If you're going to end with that, we have to. I don't need to know like what this opportunity is, but I want to know, because people listening are going to say, "Are you taking whatever this opportunity is because you're going to be more productive, or just a great opportunity?"
It's a great opportunity, and I'll be more hands-on with my products on the product side of my business. So designing and making more products. I'll be working out of a retail location and a warehouse.
That'll be so interesting to follow up with you and hear, how your perspective changes in a year from now. Or whatever,
yeah, totally. And I think the takeaway is just keep an open mind with whatever it is that you think you know,
and keep growing,
and question yourself and what you think it is that you're an expert at.
Are you going to have flexibility, or will you have to be a 9-to-5 kind of person, or what?
No, I'll still be my own boss. You're never happy unless you're your own boss.
Love that. And still aren't then, or whatever.
Just don't recommend it to anybody.
All right. Well, thanks very much. Anybody listening, we'd love to hear from you. podcast@hermannlondon.com. Any topics, any questions you want to ask. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks.
Take care.
Peace.